At the control room, Stussy was still trying to find a way to assist the Straw Hat pirates. Edison then contacted her, asking her to quickly turn off the energy shield and run. She refused, believing that if she did, the Straw Hat members would be attacked by the Marines. Edison said that their shield was actually useless now. The leaders of the world government had infiltrated, and the Gorosei were the ones they needed to fear, not the Marines. Marcus Mars was currently using his special ability to disable all communication devices on the island. Edison said he had done his best to ensure the Straw Hat pirates could escape, and the rest was up to them. Hearing this, Stussy breathed a sigh of relief. She was afraid that if Luffy and his crew couldn't escape, Vegapunk would be angry with her. Edison wanted her to leave quickly to save her life, but Stussy said she couldn't. Now that Stella was gone, she didn't know who to live for. At the same time, Jinbei and Zoro received a new message from Nami, and the fishman apologized for the delay. Nami then threatened to kick Zoro because he didn't realize his mistake in wasting everyone's time. Out at sea, the marine warships had begun to approach the giant pirate cruise ship. Nami didn't want to be attacked as soon as they landed in the water, so she asked Jinbei to go faster. Vegapunk had now been taken to another location by Atlas, and despite her sadness, she still had to return to help Bonney escape the island. The battle between the giants and Nusjuro was still very intense. He could cut through anything. While the two giants attracted the enemy's attention, Sanji rushed in to attack. However, his kick was blocked by Nusjuro's sword. Despite his best efforts, he couldn't kick away the enemy's weapon. Instead, he was sent flying by him. Oimo and Kashi then grabbed the giant horse's tail, which annoyed Nusjuro. Bonney also rushed in to attack with Oimo, but even though he was attacked from two directions, the opponent still blocked. The Gorosei's power was still far superior to theirs, and Kashi was also kicked away by the horse. At that moment, Bonney was in danger. Nusjuro jumped high, intending to slash her. Fortunately, Bonney's body had shrunk back to her child form, allowing her to dodge the slash. Frankie also jumped up to catch her, advising her not to overexert herself. Oimo and Kashi continued to fight. However, Nusjuro ignored them and ran off to another place. It seemed that the Gorosei's current priority was to stop Vegapunk's video to conceal the world's secret. Nusjuro was angry that the genius scientist kept talking about Joy Boy's failure. Although that event had ended, it left immeasurable, irreparable remnants of war. Hearing this, Nusjuro used his ability to cut the island above where the Straw Hat pirates were preparing to leave in half. His special weapon was incredibly sharp. That slash caused half of the Sky Island to fall, thereby freeing the world government agents. At this point, Vegapunk continued to talk about the world's secret. The lands they lived on were actually all islands. Hearing this, many people found it uninteresting because Vegapunk's words were too obvious. His next sentence astonished many. Because the world of 1,000 years ago was not at all like the present, the disaster at that time caused the entire land to sink into the sea. Now they were only living on the remaining fragments of the ancient continents. The Revolutionary Army was extremely shocked to hear this news, that the world had once sunk into the sea. Now the world of 1,000 years ago had been destroyed and lay deep beneath the ocean. It was believed that there were once many continents, but now no traces were recorded in books. This was indeed shocking news, but not for Nojiko, Nami's sister. She chose to go take care of the Tangerine Garden, asking everyone to tell her about it later. Vegapunk continued to emphasize that within 100 years, the sea level had risen by 200 meters. Upon hearing this, many Marines showed fear at the declaration. Even the giant warships were only 60 meters long. The superior then came out, ordering the soldiers to work and not to believe Vegapunk's words. In Chopper's home kingdom of Sakura, after hearing that the continent had sunk and history was being hidden, many people questioned whether it was true. But if these words came from Vegapunk, then it must be true. This world still holds many interesting things that they have yet to discover. The reason for the 200-meter sea level rise was also revealed by the scientist. Everyone might think it was caused by a natural disaster, but he concluded that the reason for the rising sea level was caused by humans. This was unacceptable to the journalist Morgan, who protested Vegapunk's words but was stopped by Vivi to listen further. Vegapunk's assertion that the sea level rise was caused by humans was well-founded. He had used every means to investigate, from meteorology, geology, environmental science, to atmospheric science. Vegapunk affirmed that the cause did not come from nature, and finally, the answer was revealed. The scientist discovered the key factor and the existence of something called an ancient weapon. Something that had submerged the world 800 years ago still existed somewhere and was waiting to be activated once again. In other words, the Great War that erupted in the erased history had not yet ended, and only those with the highest power in the world knew this clearly. Somewhere, a mysterious person was looking at a painting of a girl with a face similar to Vivi's, and at the same time, in Vivi's kingdom, the people were mourning the death of their king. Vegapunk continued to talk about his desire to create an eternal energy source for the future, and although not yet complete, the Mother Flame was the final achievement of his research. It was an energy source that would surely make human life everywhere in the world better. But a terrible thing happened when a small piece of that eternal flame was stolen. This was his fault. The situation on the island had now become uncontrollable. Stussy asked Edison what had happened. He said he didn't know anymore. The laboratory, along with the Cypher Paul agents, had all fallen to the ground. He tiredly sat down to rest, stating that the Straw Hat Pirates were still safe. But another madman in the Gorosei was heading towards them. Edison continued to beg Stussy to run, and she asked if she could release Kaku. She promised not to let him touch the Straw Hat Pirates. Hearing this, Edison agreed, and also had to apologize to her for letting Stussy betray her friends. However, she still chose to help them. So, now do whatever you want, but promise to keep living. Hearing this, Stussy shed tears and promised to try to keep living. Vegapunk's story continued. 2 weeks after the Eternal Flame was stolen, the Lulusia kingdom was completely wiped out. Realizing that his research was what had powered the ancient weapon and destroyed a nation, he felt very guilty. Vegapunk didn't know who had activated the ancient weapon to do that, but what he was sure of was that he had indirectly caused the deaths of countless people in Lulusia, and the disaster that could submerge this world might happen again. In Wano at this time, after hearing about the ancient weapon, Momonosuke spoke of Pluton, one of the 3 ancient weapons that Vegapunk mentioned. Joy Boy had tried to pass these weapons down to future generations, but why would that person want this world to sink into the sea again? There are still many things they don't know about the erased history, but there are still people who know about this event. These are the members of the Pirate King's crew, and this shocking news caused chaos at Marine headquarters. Back to Yor, she was wondering why Vegapunk knew she was the one who stole the Mother Flame. Realizing something, Yor finally guessed the location where Vegapunk hid the live broadcast device. She immediately reported this to the Gorosei. The broadcast device was actually hidden inside the Iron Giant. The Marines were trying to shoot down the giant robot but couldn't. Its body was too big and strong. Normal cannonballs couldn't penetrate it. The scene shifts to Rayleigh, after hearing what Vegapunk was saying. He drank so much alcohol that he got drunk, which surprised Shaki. It was rare for him to drink so much. Perhaps Rayleigh was remembering the Pirate King Roger. After learning the exact location where Vegapunk hid the broadcasting device, the Gorosei immediately took action and headed towards the Iron Giant. They wanted to stop the scientist's broadcast immediately before too much important information was revealed. To do that, Jupiter wanted to crush the Iron Giant. The scene shifts to Hachinosu Pirate Island after hearing the shocking news from Vegapunk. The pirates on the island were extremely excited. Believing that there were countless treasures at the bottom of the sea, they shouted and competed to dive down to explore. However, some thought that finding treasure at the bottom of the sea was very difficult, because there were giant creatures at the bottom of the sea capable of swallowing an entire ship. Others thought it would be great if they could find a mermaid to guide them. Somewhere at sea, the captain of a pirate crew was extremely excited about the information about the advanced civilization that Vegapunk was talking about. Although it was hard to believe that the entire world would be submerged to the bottom of the sea, the captain was still very happy to invite other crew members to prepare for a dive. The scene shifts to Vice Admiral Smoker at this time. He was moving while contacting his subordinate. Asking where she was now, Tashigi said she was at the hospital with the SWORD unit, inside the hospital room. Kobe was extremely worried, not knowing what to do next. Currently, there was too much information for them to process, and his teammates advised him to rest and recover. If Kobe followed them now, he would only be a hindrance to everyone. Another member then came in and announced that their captain was recovering very well. Hearing that the others were also relieved, Kobe asked what would happen next if Vegapunk's words were true, and the other guy admitted that if it were true, the Marines would face a crisis. His female friend thought it was time for their sword unit to act. The leader of the sword unit, Drake, was still listening to Vegapunk speak. At this time, all over, people began to believe the claims made by this scientist, wanting to know what Pirate King Roger had left behind after learning about the erased history. At the same time, at Nami's group, the shield had been turned off by Stussy, creating an escape route for them. Nami immediately asked Brook to prepare the ship to leave, just waiting for Jinbei and Zoro to return, and they could safely land on the sea. However, Lilith saw that there were many marine ships gathered below, and if they landed now, they would likely have to engage in combat with many marine warships. Brook had also finished fueling the Sunny's propulsion system, and Nami contacted Jinbei asking where they were. He said they were almost back, but a monster was running towards everyone in front. They were chasing after that giant horse, warning those on the ship to be careful, because the monster looked very strong. Nusjuro then jumped straight to Nami to attack, and the girl didn't have time to react, so she just stood still. The others also showed fear of this giant creature, and Lilith realized that this was the Gorosei. Seeing this, Zoro asked Jinbei to throw him towards the enemy, and he used Fishman Karate to throw the swordsman straight. While flying, Zoro drew his two swords and slashed directly at Nusjuro, but the opponent easily sensed and parried the slash. The two swordsmen clashed, but with his ability, Zoro successfully knocked the giant monster away, thus ensuring the safety of the remaining crew members on the ship. Jinbei then successfully caught Zoro's body from above, and he asked Nami to make the ship run immediately, knowing that the enemy in front was too dangerous. They would find a way to jump onto the ship later, so she didn't need to worry. Back on the beach below, the giant ship was being attacked by the Marines. At this time, Bonney's group had successfully boarded the ship, just waiting for Luffy to arrive, and they could escape this place. She was worried that this giant ship would not be able to withstand the Navy's dense firepower. The Vice Admirals were now directing all their forces to surround and block the escape route, thinking that the giant's ship was only large in size and nothing special. They believed that if they continuously fired cannonballs, it would sink just like other ships. On the beach, Sanji was still waiting for his captain to arrive. He was worried and shouted Luffy's name loudly. Surprisingly, his friend heard him and replied, saying that he was almost there and they should start the ship immediately. Atlas also urged them to hurry before the ship was submerged, and from a distance, Dorry had already spotted the ship. Luffy looked very happy to be able to board the giant ship, and Brogy asked Oimo and Kashi to start the ship immediately. The people on board lowered the sails and turned around. Seeing this, the Navy Vice Admirals ordered a blockade to prevent anyone from escaping, but no matter how many cannonballs they fired, the giant pirate crew's ship remained unharmed. Instead, the crew members counterattacked by firing arrows at the Navy, and the weapons they used were all large. This caused heavy losses to the Navy, but they still tried to resist. With its enormous size, the giant pirate crew's ship crushed the ships below. The crew members also jumped down to attack, and the small Navy soldiers were not strong enough to harm the giants' bodies. Many warships were destroyed in this way, and seeing that the situation was not good, another vice admiral requested all warships to gather in one place to attack, and 2 other vice admirals were also present to assist. One person controlled a mechanical monster to fire at the giant ship, while the other rushed in to attack directly with punches. She hardened her arm and unleashed a series of powerful punches at Kashi, who was immediately knocked down and fell into the sea. Seeing this scene, the Navy soldiers were re-energized to fight. Back on the island, Luffy realized that the giant pig was no longer chasing them, and he wondered where it had gone. Dorry thought it didn't matter. What needed to be done now was to jump on the ship and escape. The reason Warcury was no longer chasing Luffy was to focus on attacking the Iron Giant with the other Gorosei. He was still moving around the island without realizing the danger. The 4 Gorosei in their monster forms had now surrounded the Iron Giant. Realizing that this was the entity that had attacked Mary Jway's 200 years ago. Remembering this made Saturn extremely angry, and at the same time, Vegapunk transmitted information, hoping that everyone in the world would remember it. It concerned the letter D in the names of special people. Hearing this, the Gorosei immediately launched an attack on the Iron Giant. They did not want anyone to know the secret of those with the letter D in their names. Just as Vegapunk was speaking at a crucial point, the Iron Giant was knocked down by Warcury and fell into the sea. The impact caused the broadcasting device inside to malfunction, and the Iron Giant falling into the sea created a large wave that pushed back all the Navy warships. At this point, the broadcast stopped, leaving those watching regretful that they could not hear the end. Although they successfully stopped it, the Gorosei were extremely worried if the information just mentioned had been revealed. The Iron Giant sank to the bottom of the sea, and in his mind, he was wondering where Joy Boy was, because he really wanted to meet that person again.